You could probably already tell by the title of this podcast, but just in case, a heads up. Adult language will definitely be making an appearance. So if you're at work, around the kids, or just in front of some judgy pets, you might want to grab some headphones. Here we go. Hey, it's Leslie, and welcome to My Effing Desk. Before I introduce my next guest, I wanted to share a little tip with you. This one's good no matter where you are on your creative journey. Here it is. Try new things. Now look, I know that sounds like, obvious, hello. But here's the thing. In one of the podcasting groups I'm in on Facebook, someone shared a tip about promoting his podcast on TikTok and was telling everyone what great success he's had. He was really encouraging everyone to give it a shot. And so many people just immediately wrote it off, myself included, at least mentally. There were lots of comments like, I'm too old for that. That's for my kids. I wouldn't even know what to do. But once he started sharing some of his numbers, people started to pay a little bit more attention. At least some of them did. So I gave it a shot. I thought, what the heck? I downloaded the app. I got my 11-year-old daughter to help me with it. And I'm not a TikTok sensation, at least not yet. But I have gotten a lot of new listeners from it. In fact, you may be one of them, in which case, hello, welcome. A couple days after that, someone in another group suggested using Instagram Reels in a similar way. And this person got a little bit better responses, but still quite a bit of skepticism. I even tried to ignore it a little bit because it's just one more thing to do, right? But I finally bit the bullet and actually repurposed some of my TikTok videos for Instagram Reels. And lo and behold, I got even more views on Instagram, more followers, more downloads. Hey, shout out if you're one of those guys. So I guess the lesson here and the tip that I want to pass on is be open to new things. That doesn't mean you have to try every single thing that people suggest. There's no time for that. So you definitely want to be choosy, but be open to new things because you never know what's actually going to work for you. My next guest is Charlotte Moore. And man, this was such a great conversation, y'all. I can't wait for you to hear it. I think you're going to get so much out of it. We talked about all sorts of stuff. We covered what life was like as a single mom, a young single mom, raising this little one on her own and managing quite beautifully, I think, to still have a creative life. I think the way she worked those two things together is going to surprise you. We got into testosterone and a little bit of Picasso, and we also talked about Charlotte's project, the Black Bodies Project, and the role that we all play in racism, and more importantly, in ending racism. Charlotte is a storyteller with over 20 years of experience as a print and television news journalist. She's also a multimedia producer, filmmaker, and writer. Her debut documentary, Black Bodies, screened at 3 film festivals in Texas and in California. And her feature articles have appeared in the Austin American-Statesman, Austin Monthly, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Culture Map Austin, and a host of other publications. Charlotte has also just produced a portrait book called Benevolence in Black, which celebrates the beauty and benevolent good works of Black people who live in the Austin area. Charlotte says in her bio, and you will hear us talk about this in the interview, that for her, helping people share their stories is not just a job, but a calling. Welcome, Charlotte Moore, to My Effing Desk. So I like to start off by asking guests if creativity was always a part of your life, or was it something you came into later? How did that work for you?
Creativity was always a part of my life. And of course, my childhood was just as jacked up as anyone else's, and yet it was beautiful. I did sketches of people, like get a magazine. My mom used to get Ebony and Jet, and I'd flip through to the pictures of the models, or like Diana Ross or somebody, and I'd get a charcoal or pencil and paper. There were always books in my house, and I would tear out the blank pages. I don't know why there's blank pages when you open up a book and then there's like a blank page. I would tear those pages out and use that as paper, and I'd sketch people, and then I would also write. I was published the first time when I was 9 years old in The Villager over in East Austin, and my dad came and picked me up, and he drove me he knew the publisher guy, and he said, My daughter wrote this poem and I'd like to get it published. And he was like, sure. I remember waiting to get that. My dad brought the newspaper over and it was just a community paper and 9 years old.
That was it, I imagine. I mean, what a rush.
It was awesome. Like, it was just amazing. And I remember that. I remember how it made me feel. But it was natural. It wasn't like I was doing it to please anyone. It was just like getting up to go get something to eat. I would get up and go tear a page out of a book and sit down and draw. So it was always a part of my life with writing and art.
And how cool that your parents obviously clearly supported that, saving the drawings, bringing you up to the publisher and taking it seriously. That had to have helped.
Yeah. They both definitely encouraged it. And my mom would just always, she's kind of a typical Black mama, and she'd just be like, oh, girl, that looks good. Let me hang this up here on the wall.
It seems like that support transferred over with your daughter, because you're not the only creative in the family. Haley is an actress and probably other things I don't even know about.
Yeah, Haley is amazing. It was very easy with her because she was already this unique, creative, almost alien type of child. She's always been creative. And so we fed off each other. I feed off of her creativity and hopefully she's fed off of mine over the years.
And how'd you make that work when she was little and you were a single mom?
It just worked. She and I are very much alike, but we're very different. And we each know that we need our space. And so we've always been together in our apartment, but I would have my space and she would have her space. And as close as we were, we spent a lot of time apart, just doing our own things creatively and then coming together when we did to share it. And it just always worked.
That's awesome to have a partner in crime like that. And, like a kindred spirit that gets it and wants to take part. But then, that's ideal almost, but then, wants to go off and do their own thing.
She developed into this very introverted, introspective person. And I don't know when it happened. It was just all very gradually. She's taught me what it means to be introverted. It's not just, they're shy. Mm-hmm. It is a very sort of visceral nature. The more people around, the sort of you're just drawn inward. And I had to learn that because I took that as what am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you just talk to them or get off your phone? I've had to learn that it's not about me. I think, how can you be this introvert on the one hand, and then you've got tens of thousands of YouTube followers? She acts on stage. She's a voice actor. Like, she's doing all this crazy, stupid stuff, and yet she's an introvert. So whatever, I'm learning.
I think I'm one of Haley's people because it's like a persona that you put on. I always tell people who follow my writing and stuff, and I tend to be real snarky and kind of just say whatever I want. And they're like going to meet me at a writer's conference and they're all looking forward to it. And I'm like, just get ready to be disappointed because I'm not like that in person. It's very much, when you were describing the kind of withdrawing into yourself, that's me. It's like a sitting back and taking in everything that's happening. And it's not even an option to go and push yourself and just talk to the people. Or sometimes it is, but it's extremely hard. But yeah, it's a total mismatch between that gregarious, tell it like it is, putting yourself out there that happens. And I feel like a lot of performers are like that, they kind of can be extremely extroverted and like showy and always on, or a really pensive kind of thing.
It's fascinating. And it's good to hear you say that. And I've met other people who say that too. So it helped me to think, did I do something wrong? And it really, more mothers need to understand that it's not about you. It's not about doing anything wrong. This is a person and that personality, and they have to find their own way. When you mentioned your writing, and I'm remembering, yes, I love how sarcastic and bold your writing is. It's fascinating that you're able to do that.
I feel like that's so much of parenting, isn't it? Like that realization that it's nothing you did, it's who they are. God, how many times do I keep having to learn that lesson with mine? It's like, there's no book, there's no right way, wrong way. They're going to be who they're going to be. And It doesn't matter how many organic vegetables you try to cram down their throats. They're not going to do it.
Right.
They want goldfish.
Or even what you do. I had Haley when I was 20. I was not ready. I wanted to go to college and I wanted to, and so in my 20s and 30s, I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't murder anyone, but I made a lot of mistakes personally, and I went through a lot of emotional upheaval, and I even got, I had problems with alcohol for a long time. I don't think I'd really found myself before I brought this beautiful creature into the world. And so as a mother, when you are going through those things, which you invariably will, of course, then you think, well, then it was that. It was all that alcohol I was drinking and I messed her up. Or it was because I, was crying that night and I, messed her up. And that's not the case. And I talked to Haley about it. I've been so apologetic. And she'll say, Mom, I had the best childhood growing up. And I just don't remember it that way because of everything I was going through. That saying that youth is wasted on the young. It's like if I could go back and relive that, I would really enjoy it and not feel so guilty about everything that I thought I was doing wrong. I was just living. And so, I think moms, we need to stop being so hard on ourselves. It's life.
And I think that's kind of what a lot of women go through when it comes to pursuing their own interests, is feeling like that's not what a good mom does. A good mom is there for every soccer game and has the house perfect and has the kids decked out. And if I do all that, there's no time for me to sketch something, record a song, jot down a poem that came into my head, start my own business, any of it. And there's not. There's really not. But it's that feeling of wanting to find yourself again, or maybe never even having discovered it in the first place. And now you have all these little creatures around you, even if it's just one little creature, and feeling like that pull, the push and pull of I'm going to screw them up or I'm going to be true to myself. And it's like the more we can realize that those two can go together and they're actually going to be okay and be happy and remember it in such a different way than we remember it. Man.
That's perfect the way you said that. They're not mutually exclusive. Take your kids with you. Haley, when Haley was young, I was working at a news station, and for a while I worked an overnight shift. And so Haley would come with me. She would get in the car and she'd come with me, and she loved it. For her, it was like a field trip when she didn't have to go to school. She would be at I'd be at her mom's job, and she'd probably be laying on a couch or sitting in a chair working on my computer while I did my work. She loved it. It did not hurt her. Like, it opened her up. I would take her with me everywhere. My mom would tell me, you guys are inseparable. And we were. So if I wanted to go do something that I thought was fun, if I could, I would take her with me.
Jump in. Yeah. My youngest took her first steps right after a dance class that I dragged her to. She was sitting there on the side watching us dance. And then she got up at the end with a little Bob Fosse hat on and took her first steps. And guess what? She wanted to dance as soon as she could. It was such an unexpected gift of not only can you do this, but then your kids are going to want to start doing it. It's a treat for them.
Absolutely. It helps them also to see you as a human being and not just a mom.
Yes.
Which really takes the edge off,
And I think breaks that cycle of martyrdom, of sacrificing everything. Like, they are no longer going to have as much of that perception, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so.
Let's talk about switching gears a little bit to some of your work. Tell us about Black Bodies Project.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for asking. So looking back, I know that as a little girl, I was always thinking about race and racism. And I grew up in East Austin, which was all Black, pretty much. Most of the people I saw looked like me. They were in some form of Black. Even my elementary school at the time was all Black. And you don't question it because you're a kid. It is what it is. It wasn't until very recently that I found out about what happened in Austin in 1928 when City Council moved all people of color, all Black and brown people, to the east side of town. And I was born in 71. So 50 years after they did that, it was still an all Black area. And I thought, wow, that is what power is. That is what, when we look at politics and decisions people make, that is what happens. The decisions they made 50 years ago had an impact on me. And the impact was my whole neighborhood was Black. Now, that's not a bad thing, but it showed me how the construction of these rules and laws and beliefs, they shaped my whole world.
Yeah.
So I knew racism was a thing. I knew that racism existed. I would write about racism. I wrote poetry about it. I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but looking back and reading some of that work, I'm like, I was thinking about race at 12. I was never like an activist or a Blacktivist or anything, but I always knew racism existed. A couple of years ago, I decided to do a film for a film festival in Austin. For the Capital City Black Film Festival. A friend said, you should do something. I'd never done a film before, but I was like, sure. I thought, what am I going to do it on? And I thought, yeah, I'm just going to sit some people down and have them talk about what it means to be Black, what it means to live in a Black body. It was a lot of work, and the film is not technically perfect, but it was my first film. After I did the film, I thought how at home that felt for me, talking about race and not even talking about it, having other people talk about race and racism and being Black. I thought, I don't want it to just end with the film. So then I just happened to, I believe in the universe putting you where you need to be. I met a woman her name's Caroline, and she happens to be white. And she's an entrepreneur and a visionary. I told her, I want to do more with this. I don't want it to just be about the film. And then she said, well, have you ever thought about your own business? So in talking with her, I developed this idea to create a nonprofit, which I did. It's called the Black Bodies Project. And the main mission of it is to help primarily white people understand what it means to be Black. Because I believe that's a lot of the reason why racism persists. It's not necessarily these extremist white supremacist groups and fringe. It's not that. That's always going to be there. The main reason I believe racism persists is a lack of empathy. Michelle Obama took all my words when she did her speech at the Democratic National Convention, like everything that woman said, I have been saying. But empathy, it's that we don't understand how racism is impacting all of us to some degree. Even white people are impacted, and they just don't know it.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope this nonprofit will grow to become. I want it to be a visual, artistic tool to help white people, particularly white people, understand their power and how racism works.
You know, going along with what you were talking about, how the onus is so much on white people to do the work. One of the things that struck me in the film was the woman towards the end who kind of was giving her answer about it being like a wound that won't heal. Mm-hmm. She likened it to like a wound on your hand, somewhere that's going to keep getting hit over and over again. And then with every microaggression or every instance of racism, however big or small, keeps reopening that wound. And then she kind of stopped and turned the camera, and it was almost just like this, let's cut the shit moment.
Yes.
You know? And she's like, non-Black people, the work is on you. I wrote it down. What did she say? She said, if you're not Black, you need to heal yourself because your damage is interfering with my ability to heal on a daily basis. And, you know, there were so many stories in this film, but man, that just was like, woo.
Can I say something to you? I feel very emotional right now. That part, that one soundbite is the film, is the message. That one soundbite from her is what I hope comes across in that film, is that most Black people are not the people that many white people think they are generally. So they can say, I have Black friends. I work with Charlotte. I'm not racist. I mean, come on. but generally, what do they think about the Black people? We're not all, criminals. We're not all welfare moms. We're not moving to your suburbs to hurt you and bring in loud music and all this other stuff. I mean, we're just as varied as white people are.
Right.
I wanted the film to just let the people talk, so it's not like Martin Scorsese or there's not a lot of action. It's just people talking, and I didn't want to edit them. Every time I see that, it gets me. The way she just stopped and said, yes, let's cut the bullshit. This needs to happen. We have to do this thing together. So thank you for seeing that.
I think it is, of course, getting discussed more, but it's hard. It's hard to be that introspective and realize that just because you're not being outwardly discriminatory towards someone or cruel or hostile, you may not have your hood on, but what you're doing is still impacting other people's lives. And I thought the film was so much of a chance to stop and just listen. And I really liked at the beginning how it kind of all got prefaced with, you don't get to judge us.
Yeah.
All that we ask is that you listen. And it felt kind of like a contract. Like, we're going to enter into this contract together. We're going to be really vulnerable and talk about some stuff, some of it that may be hard for us to say and for you to hear. And so for you, if we're going to do this, you got to set aside your judgment and all of your own thing and just freaking listen to people who have been given the microphone for a long time.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. So I've seen this film because I've done virtual screenings of it. I've seen this film like 932 times now.
Yeah.
And every single time I see it, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, that doesn't look right. And that should have been better. And why did I say don't judge us and all this? But I've learned to let that go. And I hope to do more films and I hope to be better at it. But I'm so grateful that people like you have watched it and have given me the feedback. Okay, here's what I want to say to every mother, everyone out there. If there is something you want to do it. Do not let the fact that you're a mom and you've got kids and you've got to do this and that and the other, you better follow that inspiration.
Yeah.
When I did that film, it changed my whole life and perspective. As an artist, it changed what I saw as a possibility for me. And even though I know that film could be so much better, guess what? I can do more films.
Right.
There's more I can do. So that is always my message, is follow, especially if it's something that is like your podcast here. If it's something that has this potential to cause a social shift in thinking, you better do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
And let go of that perfection of
yes.
And the judgment on yourself of, oh, that could have been better. I didn't get that right. It's so hard. It's so hard to do, but you'll never do anything if you just keep holding on to that ideal of what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like. Who cares? You're going to make some crap. Or even if it's not crap, you're going to make something that's less than ideal, but the message is still there.
And the message is there. And men.
Oh, God.
They have a way of doing this naturally. Women, we better learn to tap into that. And
it's so true.
Yeah. We have testosterone in our systems too, to a degree.
We do.
We better tap into that and start being unafraid to make mistakes, because men don't care.
What's that thing they say about the job applicants? There's some statistic that a woman has to have meet 100% of the qualifications before she'll even apply. Mm-hmm. And a man, it's like 50% or something. And they're like, fuck it, I'll throw my hat in there.
Right.
We need to tap into that. Some of that entitlement, like a healthy entitlement.
Yes.
You said in your bio that helping people share their stories is not just a job for you, it's a calling.
Right. And we know when we've been called to something, it's scary sometimes, especially if you think it's too big or I can't do that. But we know, it's like, I know I love chocolate, right? Put chocolate anywhere near me, move out of the way. I'm going to eat the chocolate. We know when there is something telling us this is what needs to be done. In school, we put so much emphasis on math and science. What is it called? STEM. We've put so much emphasis on going to school to make a lot of money as a doctor, as a scientist, and all of that's great. Many times if you're called to be an artist, you're not going to tell anybody that because you don't want people laughing at you. You don't want your parents telling you that that's not what you should do. You don't want, you can't make a lot of money, which I disagree with. But we know what it is we are called to do, but inspires us. And many times those things, particularly for women, are not the things that we put a lot of stock in our society. But I say, you got to go for it. You have one life that we know of. So you live your life in misery, doing what everyone else wants you to do for whatever reason. And many times that's not even what's happening.
Yeah.
Your kids would probably love it if you go take a year and go to Belize or something. Right. Your parents probably wouldn't judge you as much as you think. So yeah, I think when you feel that nudge and you feel that calling, that this is what I want to do it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, that's okay.
And I think just because society doesn't put much stock in it doesn't mean that you don't. The flip side of it is ignoring it and trying to devalue it for yourself. That doesn't usually work. It doesn't go away, that little nudge. It just is a part of yourself that you kind of tamp down because of whatever everyone else's expectations are. And the only way we change society's expectations and the stock they put in it is by doing it, by valuing it ourselves, by getting more people together and saying, hey, this is valid. It's just as valid to be an artist, a filmmaker, whatever, as it is to be an engineer.
Exactly. And Haley and I, oh my God, we were laughing so hard on the phone the other day because we were like, okay, Pablo Picasso, look, he got it in his head. He was an artist. But that woman's eye was down by her chin. I was like, but you know what? Pablo knew he was an artist and he said, I don't care what anybody says. I'm drawing this woman just like this. I don't care.
Yeah.
Picasso did not care. He did what he felt he was called to do. And guess what? It worked out.
It worked out for him. It's got a future.
Like it may not make sense to me, but if it makes sense to you and it fills your soul, why would you not do it?
Yeah.
You got to see it the same way as soon as we're done here, I'm going into that kitchen and I'm going to probably get a little piece of chocolate. I'm serious. Like, I'm not going to question it. Right. I don't care what my mama thinks. I'm going to go get the chocolate. That's how we have to begin to see these things that we want to do. And one more quick tip.
Yeah.
I love the word project because, profession is such a big word. And, it makes you feel like you got to do this until you die. Like, that's my profession. It's my career. I really love this idea of having this Black Bodies project. There's not as much pressure. It's a project. It's something that I can work on that I know is really dear to me. But if I need to go do this for a little while, it's not my career. Like, I can go and take care of this over here and I can take care of that. But I can always come back to a project that I'm working on and that fulfills me. And that just helps me mentally.
Yeah. I think that that's good for a lot of creatives because creatives tend to have their fingers in a lot of different pies.
Yeah.
And it's hard, maybe not fitting into a neat category or having whatever your interest is as your full-time profession. But a project, this is what I'm working on for now. And then, when the next thing comes along, I'll shift to that.
Right.
So it is less pressure. Yeah.
It's less pressure. And yet it can be way bigger than my job.
Right.
This project, which is, for me, this Black Bodies project is something that is so much bigger than journalism. And yet it's something that I can, while I'm working on my journalism and making money or doing whatever it is I want to do, I still have that there. That's always there.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to jump into the lightning round before you go get your chocolate?
Yes.
What is your effing desk? Your creative area might be physical or otherwise that's only yours.
Well, honestly, it's not a desk. I love to sit on my patio. And I hate to admit this, but I do smoke. I smoke my menthol cigarettes and drink my coffee. And that's my effing desk.
Nice. What's keeping you sane right now?
Silent witness is a British series on Amazon.
Silent Witness.
Oh, I love it. Everybody's so British and, I should have been British Black.
The Brits are really coming through with us, for us with this pandemic. Like that, I feel like British murder mysteries, the British baking show. Now we got The Crown.
Yes.
I feel like we need to give them some sort of residuals off of all of the mental weightlifting they're doing for us.
There are lifesavers. That is what is keeping me sane, the Brits.
What's your best life hack?
My eyeshadow.
Ooh.
So I just turned 49. All my hair is gray. And like right before I got on, I used my eyeshadow to cover up.
Oh, yes.
You can still see some grays, but a lot of it I covered up with my eyeshadow. Mascara.
Yeah. I was going to say, I use mascara for that. It's great.
Yes.
Before auditions, I can't tell you how many times I've been like in the car in the rearview mirror touching it up. If you could do anything besides what you're doing now, what would it be?
I would do that whole van life thing. Van and just travel.
It sounds so good right now.
I know.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
My last boyfriend, the one thing he was really, he was good at two things, but one of the things he was really good at was he told me, you are a creative genius. Wow. And that sticks with me because I don't go around saying that or thinking that. Whenever I'm feeling down or insecure about something I'm producing, writing, or I think that I'm a creative genius. That helps.
What's the worst advice you've been given?
Work a job.
Yeah.
You don't have to love it. Just work it. No.
Fill in the blank. Imposter syndrome is
hell. It's hell. It's a hell. Because none of us are imposters.
So true. What's the last thing you read?
I Wonder as I Wander, and I always get his name wrong. Langston Hughes.
Oh, yeah.
And it sucks. That was a year ago. I need to read more, but it's such a good book. It's about his trip he goes all the way over to Germany, and it's great. Oh, it's great.
Nice. If you could have a song played every time you entered a room, what would it be? As much as you love music, I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, see, I know, and that's a really hard one.
That is.
I would almost say anything by Whitney Houston, but there's a song that was played. I hadn't heard it. I grew up in the church, and I don't listen to a lot of gospel music, but at George Floyd's funeral, I forget his name, I forget his name. But anyway, the song For Every Mountain, you've got to look it up. And it is the most inspiring song about how we have so much to be grateful for and how God takes you through the valley, but then he takes you over the mountain. It's just such an amazing song that you just can walk out and sing, and I love it.
I mean, that would evoke a whole mood with every room you came into. So yeah, that would be the one to go with.
The song is like, you go on this whole journey. It's great.
I'll put that in the show notes for everyone to check out. This is the last one. What's next on your bucket list?
Next on my bucket list, and I'm going to admit this, which I have some insecurity about. I'm 5 classes away from getting my bachelor's degree.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. And so I want it so badly, So that's what I want to do. I want to get my bachelor's degree.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That'll be wonderful. It's a big one.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for everything, your inspiration and your work, all of your different work that you do that just brings people together and works to bring change in the world, which we so desperately need. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This inspires me to get busy again and to do more. So thank you too.
All right.
Love what you're doing here and good luck with it.
I can't help but think that the conversations that have come about all over the country as a result of Charlotte's work through the Black Bodies Project, that all came from her following her inspiration. She didn't have any experience making films, but she followed that little inkling, and look at what it sparked. Look at what it will continue to spark. That's what happens when we put aside all the shoulds and the I can'ts and maybe even a little bit of good sense and just dive in. And by saying yes to that inspiration, we're feeding ourselves and we're also inspiring others to follow theirs. I want to know how you're following your inspiration. Send me an email to myeffingdeskpodcast@gmail.com. Tell me what you thought about this conversation and tell me about the inspiration that you are following. Hey, you might even get a shout out on the next episode. And then who knows who you will be inspiring through your inspiration. See, it's just all very, very inspirational. For more information on Charlotte Moore, as well as the Black Bodies Project, go to blackbodiesproject.com. I'll link it in the show notes as well. There you can also find where to get the new book, Benevolence in Black, as well as where you can see the movie, Black Bodies. Hey, we got some serious comments on last episode with Adrian Hedger. I wanted to share a couple with you. Someone said, I just listened on my walk today and I didn't think I could love Adrian anymore, but now I do. Totally agree. Another comment said, I especially love the reminder that most creatives are rocking at least 4 hustles simultaneously. Yes, I was so grateful that Adrian said that. It's one of those ugly truths that no one wants to talk about, and she did. All right, that's about it for now. We'll catch you next time for a special mid-season episode in 2 weeks. In the meantime, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at myeffingdeskpodcast, Twitter at myeffingdeskpod, the website, of course, myeffingdeskpodcast. And now I've just started a Pinterest page. I'm spending way too much time on it. Go check it out. Pinterest at myeffingdeskpodcast. Did I get everything? I think that's it. Hang in there. Have a great Christmas if you celebrate. And hey, go shake some shit up.